Today's episode is brought to you by the folks over at SeatGeek, the best and easiest to use ticket platform out there. They take the confusion out of buying tickets using a 0 to 10 scoring system and a green is good, red is bad color rating system so you and your loved ones get the best deal possible. So whether it's going to see our beloved Redlegs at Great American Ballpark, the Bengals over at Paycor, FC Cincinnati, one of the area college teams, or pretty much anything in between, use promo code Riverfront at checkout and receive $20 off your first order. Click the link in the show notes to download the app and get started. That's Riverfront, one word, for $20 off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riverfront. This is episode number 505 of the world's most dangerous podcast, where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally Pete Harnish. I'm your host, Nate Dotson, and with me this week is a good friend. You all know him. Some of you love him, Joe Farfsing. Joe, how the heck are you?
It is Nick Castellanos' world, and we are all just here existing in it, so... I'm doing great, man. How are you? I am ready to talk some Reds.
We actually have a little bit to talk about today. So this is a fun off-season pod. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to do viewer mail first. I'm here shortly, and then we'll get into Anchorman quotes to explain the state of the union with your Cincinnati Reds. But before we go any further, please head over to YouTube and or your favorite podcast app and give us that subscribe, like, or follow. You know we hate to ask, but I think we get put in podcast jail if we don't. And that's a community that we're trying to avoid. Speaking of communities, one that we do not want to avoid is our Patreon family. This show simply would not be possible without them. So if you want to go a little bit deeper and support the community, support the Riverfront, help keep the ship afloat, and maybe get a couple rewards in the process, join us over there. It's patreon.com/riverfrontcincy or click the link in the show notes. Joe, I got to ask, did you see Nick Krall's comments today?
I've been living under a rock. I had no idea he made any comments whatsoever. What are we speaking of? What comments? I'm sure they were very well worded and are something that are very well received by the intelligentsia of the Reds fans.
Very eloquent, as always, Nick Krall. So obviously this is usually a super quiet time for us. But Nick decided to spice things up. At least he knew exactly what to say. I wonder if Nick Krall is actually just a massive troll and he knows what to say to get Twitter fighting with each other. So Nick Krall was in an interview and was just talking about some of the goals for the 2024 season and the offseason plans. He said, how can we upgrade our club this offseason? Whether it's starting pitching, bullpen, or position players, we'll have to look at everything. All right. That's a good start. I can handle it. I like where this is going, Nick. Then he says, we'll have some tough decisions to make at the end of spring training. This offseason, can we add some players who can upgrade our roster? And what does that look like at the end of camp? It's like, okay. You know, not talking a whole lot about free agency acquisitions or trades, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. As is well documented on this podcast, Nick Krall, not the best at talking. He then goes on and says this, which is what really got the internet stirring today and annoyed a lot of our loyal listeners. Nick Krall said, we have so many young players. It's about continuing to have them improve. That's the biggest thing. You can go out and get this or this. We have so many young players that having those players improve year over year is going to determine where we are success-wise. You've got Fraley, Friedel, who is a dynamic player, Will Benson, Stuart Fairchild, who's a good player, and Spencer Steer. Those guys are fighting for jobs. So just based on that alone, what is your initial thoughts, Joe?
He's setting us up for a disappointing winter. Either it's setting up so that nothing is going to happen, or if something, even the most minute thing like another Sam Moll type acquisition is, well, I mean, we weren't expecting everything. That just happened to be something that fell in our lap. We were just going to roll with the youngsters that we have. Adding Stuart Fairchild as one of the youngsters is pretty much a punch in the face for pretty much everybody who understands where this team is. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I hope this is not the case, and it is worth throwing it out there that he may just be Nick crawling it up, just trying to give some flowers to his guys, make them feel good, keep their confidence up. I don't know. You're right about the Stuart Fairchild comment. Why is he lumped in with these guys? He's not a dude. He can be a useful 26 man, but that's his ceiling as far as we are aware of it right now. But I want to go ahead and jump into some viewer mail questions because all the ones we had were about this. When we asked for questions today, this conversation broke. So let's see what some of the guys had to say. As always, these come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. First one was Joey Gaditza. I'm just going to read these off one at a time. Gentlemen, so if the Castellinis feel like they're kind of a big deal, Anchorman reference, this offseason has to be the one to pounce and add to the team. If not, WTF are we doing? Seth Shaner asks. The tea leaves are there to be read. Krall set up the fan base to not expect anything this offseason with his recent comments. I suppose this continues to prove Phil Castellini right. We have nowhere to go, and we just have to take what they hand us. Is this what's going on here? Kyle Kapler then asks, are you guys excited for our favorite baseball team to do absolutely nothing this offseason? Have Nick Krall tell us that he tried to do things but couldn't get it done, and to be told that we were competitive despite any outside help last season? So my first question to you, Joe, is, are we being fair to Nick Krall? Do you think that's what he was trying to do, or do you think he was just talking? Granted, this did come on the heels of him saying he has no regrets about the deadline and pretended that he couldn't get a single good player unless he gave up the entire roster.
So let me answer your question with the question: does he deserve any benefit of the doubt from us as loyal, long-suffering Reds fans?
Well, you just said loyal, long-suffering Reds fans. They've done very little to justify us having faith.
Yeah.
We have given Nick Krall a lot of credit on this show, and we'll continue to do so. He has done fantastic things. He has yet to prove that he can add a single meaningful piece to a contender. That's what we are all excited about this offseason. Even the huggingest prospect huggers out there were maintaining that they need them to spend money this offseason. This is your chance.
You're referring to Carlos, right, as the most huggingest prospect huggers?
This is true. Carlos Guevara, known prospect hugger.
Yeah.
This is the offseason. And it really sounds like he is just setting them up, setting all of us up to say, well, don't expect too much. We do have a lot of really good guys. I would caution anyone who looks at our roster and says, yeah, these are our dudes, to remember this team didn't make the playoffs. These dudes were not good enough to make the playoffs. They were well under 500 in the second half of the year. Now, you can expect some improvement. I expect a lot of these guys to improve. I'm not sure Matt McClain can get a whole lot better, as great as he was. I think Ellie is going to look a lot better. I think that we're still going to be relying on health for these pitchers. A starting rotation made up of guys who have never come close to pitching in a full season. So I have been really, really excited about this offseason, as excited as I've been for specifically for an offseason in a long, long time. And I guess it just, pun somewhat intended, sticks in my craw that he's coming out with this nonsense. And we're not even through the conference or the league championship series yet.
Yeah, it's these comments again. It's trying to temper expectations. He knows that this is a huge offseason because of what they have that came up through the system. There's not a lot. Yeah, Reds still have a decent amount of prospects, but nobody's going to be coming up to help them in 2024.
Maybe a couple pitchers, maybe,
but I mean, I would doubt. I wouldn't count on it. So I mean, these are the guys that are going to be the core of the team, and it's clear that they need help. I mean, you can't count on pitchers who have never pitched a full season to pitch a full season, and he's setting us up that we tried. I mean, we love the guys we have. I mean, these are great players. We believe in these players, and that's it's our guys. Like we don't need to go outside the organization or the comments.
It may just be that. I want to throw that out there. He could just be gassing up his guys. Be like, hey, you guys focus on you. Don't worry about the rest of it. It could be that. I just don't think it's that.
Because then he added on the comments about not adding anything at the kind of went on more about not making any more acquisitions at the trade deadline.
What was that gaslighting BS? I'm gonna get hot for a minute. He was straight up gaslighting the fan base.
Yeah,
He was like,
absolutely.
they were asking for McLean, Steer, and CES and everything we could do. I'm not going to give up those guys for a rental. But what about every single other option? What about all of the trades that were made that didn't require a haul as robust as what you just laid out, Nick Krall? Why are you just lying to your fan base? You can say, hey, we evaluated everything with our entire team and just decided that it was not a move that we were willing to make. You can say that. You can say, I'm the general manager of a major league team. I know more than you guys do. Say that to us. But don't get out here and say that we didn't make a move because they were asking for the entire farm system for rentals when a dozen good moves were made at the trade deadline, and none of them required anything like what he was talking about. That one fired me up.
Absolutely. Well, and we realize that you don't have to trade for rentals. There are players with years of control, Dylan Cease, that you could acquire and make some of these guys irrelevant. I mean, I'm looking at the quote right here. Connor Phillips, just about everybody asked for Connor Phillips. People were asking for Matt McLean, Spencer Steer, and Christian Encarnacion Strand. I'm not kidding. A team asked us for Andrew Abbott for a rental. Of course they are. That's what a good general manager does. They ask high and expect for you to counter with, no, but we've got a nice Lion Richardson for you.
It's
Cool.
called negotiation.
Exactly. And he doesn't understand it. I would love to see him at a car dealership and just to see him try to finagle. And the guy comes for, like, oh, I've got this great car. It's an 18.9% interest rate. And, cool. Okay, fine. Like, do you just agree with that? Or do you come back with something, that
No,
is a little close?
that's why he walks so much. He'd be walking. He wouldn't even have a car.
Yeah.
Now, couldn't get the car. They wanted money. This makes me nuts. I love these dudes. I love this young core. I cannot wait to root for all or some of them for several years. And the reason I say or some is because if there is a trade out there that involves one of these guys that makes the team better, you make the deal. What are we doing here? I'll fall in love with the guy that they trade Matt McLean for if the team is better. And let it be known, I want to keep Matt McLean. I want to keep Elliott. I love Spencer Steer. But if there is a move to be made that involves one of those guys or one of the prospects, Connor Phillips or an Edwin Arroyo, and the major league club gets better and can do what the Diamondbacks and the Phillies are doing right now, playing for a league championship in the middle of November, then you do the freaking deal. And quit gaslighting your fan base. We're not idiots. Well,
I would love for him to point to. I would love for him to point to one deal that was made at the trade deadline that included any prospects of anywhere near the caliber of these guys that he's talking about. Other teams managed to make deals with giving up their top prospects. I mean, the NL Central the Reds have the fourth best farm system in the NL Central, and it's like seventh best in all of Major League Baseball. Like NL Central is loaded. Like the Brewers, Cubs. And the Pirates are ahead. The Brewers and the Cubs somehow managed to trade and acquire players at the trade deadline without moving down the prospect rankings because they didn't give up their best players, but they gave up guys that were down the list or maybe not irrelevant. But
that's something we keep trying to. The horn we keep blasting here is that these other teams, you think they're just going to sit back? The Cardinals have already come out and said that they're going to get at least 3 high quality starting pitchers. Now they're losing some guys, sure. So it's not just apples to apples. But if you think the Cardinals, who are a prideful organization that has sustained success for so long, are going to just sit back after getting embarrassed day in and day out last season, no, they're going to make moves. The Cubs were arguably better than the Reds this past year with a stronger farm system and deeper pockets. The Brewers are going to be there because they're the Brewers. And in case you guys forgot, they won the freaking division going away.
Yeah.
So I love this Reds team. I'm going to keep saying it. And if they don't make a single move, I'm going to root for these guys because I like them all. But if they don't make a single move to a fan base that has been dragged through the filth and the muck for, if you're 25 years old, your entire life. then they owe a public apology. They have the money to spend. They got to do something. But we've beat that dead horse enough. So talking about the offseason, let's get into some of the important dates. Our friend Wick Terrell over at redreporter.com is a great read, even better Twitter follow or Blue Sky or X, whichever we're calling these things these days. He posted a great article. It's all the important offseason dates. First one, free agency starts the day after World Series ends, actually, though you aren't allowed to make any signings for 5 days. Trades are also on the table at that time, too. Then also, 5 days after the World Series, a couple big ones come up, Joe. And that is option decisions. There's this guy who has the club has a $20 million option on. You may have heard of him, and we'll get into him a little bit more later. And another guy that we're going to have to talk about, catcher Kirk Casale, has a $4 million team option. So the club will make those within 5 days of the conclusion of the World Series. Qualifying offers happen at that same time. We don't have a guy for a qualifying offer, do we? Who would we have? It would have been Luke Maley, I guess. Would be our only guy. And LOL. This is one that I want to get your some of your takes on, Joe. It is the non-tender deadline. And what this is, and this is November 17th. These are people that are in line to receive a contract through arbitration, and correct me if I misspeak at all, that the team can elect to not offer a contract to. So they're not tendered a contract. Our friends over at redlegnation.com had a great article about who some of these candidates are. Did you happen to see that?
I did not, but I do have thoughts.
Who are some of the people that you expect to be? Better question. Is there anyone that you expect the Reds to not tender a contract to?
I don't think there's anybody that you expect that you 100% say, yeah, they're not tendering him a contract, but someone that I can absolutely see and would not surprise me is Nick Senzel.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Go on that.
I just don't know, where does he fit? Okay, great. He hit left-handers pretty well, and maybe that's a little more valuable now that left-handed relievers do pitch a little bit more because loogies have been gone for however many years since they've had the three batter rule, and starters are going shorter and shorter. So but you've got someone that you start one game, that you can start maybe one game a week and pinch hit maybe a couple games a week. He plays center field. We've got a left-handed hitting center fielder that actually hits left-handers better than literally everyone else on the team anyway. So why don't we try to upgrade and get rid of someone who, unfortunately, we know his ceiling. Like, his floor is his ceiling right now. Why don't we try something else? Try something,
Yeah,
that can give us more, or at least there's hope. That there's something to hope for.
Yeah, the real reason that you would not tender a contract to somebody on this list would be if you don't think they are going to perform at or above the money that you have to spend on them. And he is projected to make about $3 million in 2024. That's not a ton of money. The Reds could absolutely spend it, but he already expressed at last trade deadline that he would like to go find a gig with more regular playing time. And he strikes me as a change of scenery candidate. Now, if you can sign him and then package him as part of a bigger deal to get somebody, he could still have the previously massive prospect capital reputation. I don't know, but I think you're right. We could be seeing the end of Nick Senzel. Though this podcast will always want to see him thrive in a Reds uniform, but I would get it.
Yeah, I mean, he's 28 years old already. He's not a kid. No,
not at all. Some other guys, Stuart Fairchild could be one of those guys, though I don't expect him to make much money. TJ Hopkins is a guy. Jose Barrero would be the only other bigger name that I could see the Reds getting rid of, bringing up a 40-man spot and just saying, hey, man, you're behind so many guys that we don't have room for you. After that, the big one is arbitration. So that's January 7th. That's most of the guys. That is most of the dudes that we love here at the Riverfront. Some of those guys, Lucas Sims, Senzel, Derek Law, Justin Dunn, who's no longer there. He's gone. TJ Antone, Alex Young, Jake Fraley, Ty Steve, Jonathan India, and Vladimir Gutierrez, who I think might also be gone.
He gone.
Yeah, these guys are going to go to battle and try to get raises. We'll see what happens there. Then it starts heating up a little bit. I call it the appetizer, the GM meetings on November 7th, and then the big dog, the main course, the winter meetings, December 4th through 7th. For me, that is the most exciting time in the offseason. It seems like so much wheeling and dealing is getting done. I remember being a young pup, and when the Matt Latos trade went down, I think that was the winter meetings. And it's just a bunch of Nick Kralls. Every team's Nick Krall, having cocktails, shaking hands, kissing babies, and wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. I would love to be a fly on the wall for this thing. Be a pretty drunk fly on the wall, but I would love to go and see what happens there. Do you expect that the Reds will make any just call it noteworthy moves by that time?
First things first, you want to make sure you don't get too drunk that you are shaking babies and kissing hands, because that's not
Good point.
I mean, I've got 2 kids of my own and never shake a baby unless they really just won't shut up. No, I'm just kidding. Like, don't. That's just completely wrong. I don't know. I mean, winter meetings are fun if you like watching 29 teams try to improve their product on the field while the Reds sit it out.
Don't do it. I was a lot more excited to talk about this offseason schedule before these stupid Nick Krall comments. Just water. He's a wet blanket. He is the Rockies' wife of my offseason enthusiasm.
Don't do Adrian bad like that. I love the actress. I love Talia Shire. I mean, come on, she's part of the Coppola family. I mean, she's fantastic. She's fine. Don't do her wrong like that. Do not compare her to Nick Krall. I mean, all that being said, I mean, this is still an incredibly fascinating offseason for the Reds, because they're not going to sit on their hands. They're going to bring in people on actual major league contracts. It's whether it's going to be somebody noteworthy like a Sonny Gray, who's within their within their price range and is someone that's needed, or like Teoscar Hernandez, who's a right-handed hitting outfielder that the Reds need. I don't foresee something like that, but there is literally every team can afford to sign every single player on the market. So, it's dumb to talk about money, but the Reds have no money tied up to 2024. So they have to spend to save face. They have to spend money. And unless they're going to extend every single player who's pre-arb to, large deals, like they have to sign actual major league players to major league contracts. And unless it's Mike Miners and Luke Weavers, like there will be guys that'll, new guys that have actual track records on the Reds next year that were play, with other organizations.
That would be nice.
It's whether or not they're going to be proactive and try to get, and try to get the guys on the first couple of days, or wait for the wait at the kids table for the scraps to come their way.
Yeah, we get this question a lot. Everybody wants to ask who we think the Reds are going to target in free agency, and I'll be honest with you, I have no clue. We don't have that kind of inside info here.
I know who I would target.
Well, keep that to yourself for now, because we're gonna tease a future episode. I'm hoping to make this happen the first episode after the World Series concludes, and we'll get a crew together. Everybody's going to get a free agent budget. It's going to be the difference in the Reds' expected payroll and the pre-free agency payroll and $100 million, so $64 million or something like that. And we're going to go through and we're going to do a little free agent draft and everybody has a budget to go with, and maybe one trade per candidate, just for fun. So keep your eye out for that. There was a little bit of news. We teased it earlier. The Reds made a signing today. I didn't even know they could make a signing. I'll be honest with you. When I saw this, I'm like, this is April Fool's. They can't make signings until later in the offseason. Well, as always, we learned that I'm an idiot and don't listen to anything I say. They brought local Luke Maile back, Joe. 1 year, $3.5 million. What are your thoughts?
Technically he wasn't a free agent because he wouldn't become a free agent until after the World Series. So it's an extension.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why they were able to bring him back. I'm torn. I like Luke Maile. I think he gives a lot on defense. I think he hit about as well. He's a huge figure in the clubhouse. The whole America's team stuff that everyone thought was just Jonathan India just trying to be some goober leader. That was that was 100% Luke Maley just being
Right.
a smartass and just having fun with it. Everyone seems to love him. He's a really good defensive. He's good at blocking pitches. He's still pretty rates pretty highly in pitch framing. Um, I would like them, and again, this is my whole thing. And if I'm blessed enough to come on the Dream Free Agent, episode, I think that they should look to get a catcher starting caliber ish to push Tyler Stevenson. So if this takes him out of that, again, they're just looking for improvements from the guys that they have. But I don't think it precludes them from anything. But I like local guys. I like some, I'm cool with someone coming back that's local, and he endeared himself. So as of now, I would put like a B, as around a B plus sign and bring him back, and it's reasonable money.
Yeah, I think you have to look at this in a vacuum and say that's a good signing. Luke Maley is a below average hitter, but he's an above average backup catcher, above average offensive backup catcher. Defensive, he's good. He's above average. If we're trotting him out there 5-6 days a week, we're in trouble. We, as in the Cincinnati Reds, because I am a member of the Reds. I don't know if you knew that. I like it. I do not think it should preclude anything. I am on the of the camp that I think Tyler Stevenson deserves another year to see if that injury was really affecting him before I give up on him. I was just so high on him before. I don't want to let go of that one just yet. I'm not ready to take that L, but even so, if they can get a better catcher, they should try. They could package Tyler Stevenson in a deal to get a different catcher. Yeah. I don't know, but on its own, I really like the Luke Maley signing. He's a good player to have on your team, especially as a backup catcher. And I think there's a team option on that, right?
Yeah, for 2025, and I didn't see what the actual money was, but he actually had the same OPS plus this past year as Tyler Stevenson, 87.
Yeah.
And with actual defensive value, because Tyler Stevenson is not a good defensive catcher. So it's,
Listen, we don't have this Tyler Stevenson slander on this show.
I will simply say something positive. He's incredibly handsome.
He's a very good looking man.
Yes. So, it's not all bad.
His wife appreciates it.
She listens. She's a loyal listener.
Well, we talk a lot about doing these, making these trades and making moves. You need prospect capital to do that sometimes. And the guys over at Just Baseball, which in my opinion is probably the best top 100 prospect ranking out there. MLB Pipeline is probably the most renowned, maybe Baseball America. But I think that Just Baseball, those guys just do the best job. They had their final rankings of 2023 of their top 100. The Reds had 4 guys, no one above 56, and one of the 4 has never even played an inning in this organization. Did you see who those guys were?
I did. So, Rhett Lauder, the first-round draft pick at 56.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he pitched in a complex league, in Arizona Complex League, I think, but he didn't pitch in anything affiliated. Yeah, true.
But I like his name. Rhett Lauder is a strong name. The other guys, Cam Collier, Connor Phillips, and Edwin Arroyo. I will say that a lot of people were asking, well, where Noel Marte is. Just Baseball has their rookie cutoff at 100 at bats. And Noel was above that. So I don't know how I feel about this. I didn't go and compare it to the other teams in the NL Central. I think all of these guys are pretty good. But if what is, in my opinion, the most trusted rankings group out there ranks Edwin Arroyo as barely in the top 100, what were we doing at the deadline? Why is this guy off the table? Why is everybody so in love with him when he plays a position that we have 2 guys in the Major League roster more suited than he is? 3. So that's my gut instinct. My quick reaction is just, who cares?
Yeah.
I hope all of these guys are awesome. I think Cam Collier is going to be a stud. And I think Rhett Lauder could be on the big league club next year.
Yeah.
But if I can lose any of these guys to get this team in the playoffs with a chance to win the World Series, I'd do it in a heartbeat. And I'll trust Nick Krall to make moves later on and keep drafting well and restock the system.
Who of these guys isn't, irrelevant's the wrong word, but who isn't behind players at that same position? Rhett Lauder, I mean, he'll probably start in A ball. Maybe they'll push him and start him in Double A. I know they started Skeens and some other draft picks in Double A this season. Cam Collier, I like him. He struggled. I mean, he's 18 years old, so it's not a big deal that he struggled. Like that should do nothing. But I think South Stewart's a better hitter. He's a 1 year older, and was actually promoted up to high A. Again, Edwin Arroyo. We've got 3 guys that just graduated the majors that play shortstop. There's Ricardo Cabrera, who's a really highly thought of. I think is he Venezuelan or Dominican? I think Venezuelan or Dominican. He was an international free agent. Carlos Jorge, second baseman. Sammy Stafuro, high school shortstop. They drafted this year really high. There are so many guys that play infield. You could trade 2 of these guys, and you wouldn't miss a beat, except one of your teams in low A would be lacking because everyone else got bumped up a level. You would not notice if Edwin Arroyo got traded. He played the entire year, except for the very end in A ball. Why do we care who Chattanooga has at second base or shortstop when we have plenty of second base shortstop guys on the major league roster?
Yeah,
like these guys would have to fail for him to even for him to even get a shot.
Yeah. No shade to our loyal listeners in the Chattanooga area. We do want the Lookouts to win.
I love Nooga.
Just not as much as the big league club.
Have you been to Chattanooga? Have you spent time in Chattanooga?
I haven't spent much time. I've driven through and stopped for dinner, but that's about the extent of it.
My wife's got family there, and it's an incredibly cool town. And it's kind of hipster-ish, which is funny when you think of, especially southern Tennessee. But yeah, a lot of really cool places to eat, cool coffee shops and stuff like that. Cool music places. So definitely a fun town to hang out in. So.
All right, so maybe we should just keep the prospects there and never promote them.
Or maybe we should just move to Chattanooga, live there, and talk about the prospects there.
Live show in Chattanooga where the roster of players that are not helping the Reds win World Series will be on the field. All right, that's enough. We got a little dark there for me. We love all these guys. Hope everybody's awesome. I hope everybody has the seasons of their lives in 2024 and have long storied Major League Hall of Fame careers. We love all of you. I want to hug you each. I will give you wrap you up in a big bear hug. Joe, we said that we were going to do the State of the Union, of which we have already touched on a decent bit. But we want to do it using quotes from legendary comedy, Anchorman. My favorite comedy. It's the one I always go to. This one and Billy Madison. And we just wanted to have a little fun because it's the off season and we're bored. And I got a glass of wine right here. So what better to do than hang out with a friend, drink wine, and talk about Anchorman and the Reds? So the deal here is we're going to find quotes. We're going to tell you what they are, and we'll see how they relate to our feelings about the Reds right now. Joe, you want to go first?
Yeah, but I feel like I'm not going to be able to do this first quote justice. I almost need the clip, and I didn't download it for you because that would have been smart of me to do. I hadn't watched the movie in years, but I threw it on today on my iPad while I was actually working. And it comes from none other than Ron Burgundy himself. But, ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. And it's simple. I had to leave that out because that didn't really track. But the horrifying news story is pretty much touches on Nick Krall and his comments that the Reds are going to go into the season without making any meaningful acquisitions. He set us up for that possibility. I don't think that's the case, but he absolutely gaslighted us and set us up that the team that we see on the field outside of, they've a lot of guys, they've got 4, 5, 6 open 40-man spots, but what walked off the field there that last weekend in St. Louis is going to be what's walking on the field first week of the year at Great American Ballpark.
Well, we can definitely agree that if that is the case, it will be a horrifying, horrifying news story. For my first one, this one is the one that I am the most nervous about this season. My quote is also from Ron Burgundy. I'm in a glass case of emotion. If you haven't seen this movie, just pause the podcast right now. Go watch it. Do yourself that favor and come back and laugh with us. But this one is obviously for my guy, Joseph Daniel Votto. If they pick up the option and he stays, that's it. We're good. Decision's been made. We'll see how David Bell deploys his talents. And yes, they have the money if they choose to spend it. You could argue that there are wiser ways to spend that money, Joe, but it is a cold hard fact that they can employ a strategy that fills all of their holes through free agency and trade and still afford to bring Joey Votto back and spend less than they have in recent years. But it's a glass case of emotion. If the Reds don't want to promise him a full-time role, I get it. I understand that logic. But for me, if they could find a way just to say, hey, listen, we want to bring you back and we're going to give you a shot to play 5 or more times a week. But these young guys are nipping on your freaking heels. And if you're not performing, there will be no ceremonial spot in the order, no legacy role given to you. You'll be coming off the bench because the future's here. Then the burden is on Joey to perform. And if he's healthy and not performing, he said he'll retire anyway. I guess I'm just so worried that this doesn't end amicably. Whenever it does end, that it's got me all torn up about how this offseason is going to go.
See, there are a couple different points to this, and there was the article out the other day by Bob Nightingale, who's wrong more often than a broken clock. But it said that the Reds are they're heading for a separation because he wants regular playing time, and the Reds don't want to or aren't going to promise him that. I don't believe that that's actually been discussed. I don't think that the two sides have even talked. I guarantee, but the Reds move at a glacial pace, so I doubt that they've even had those conversations with his people. That being said, he absolutely should not get promised regular playing time. This is someone who hasn't been able to make it through last 2 seasons. Is 41 will fit or is 40 will finish next season at 41 years old. So if he's dead set on coming into the season and being a starting player, everyday player, then we will miss the hell out of you, Joey, and good luck in your endeavors. And I sure as hell hope that you get a ring with wherever you're going. I don't think that's even the case. I think Joey would be content if he's given reasonable expectation of playing time. It doesn't even have to be 5 games a week. I mean, it could be 3-4 starts a week and then regular pinch, as the top left-handed hitter off the bat. I also think there's room in between the $7 million buyout and the $20 million option. Sure. If he comes back to the Reds, it's going to be $10-12 million total when you count in the $7 million that's already paid for, and then $3 to $5 million for him to come back. So it would absolutely suck to see him go elsewhere, because he's also somebody that if his body's willing and he feels that the Reds did him wrong, or that the Reds didn't believe he had anything left in the tank, he's going to go out and hit 300, 40 bombs, with a 600 slugging and 450 on base percentage.
That's why I think that it's not ridiculous for them to say when the season begins, if you're healthy, you're going to get the mostly everyday either first base or DH spot, and we'll do it until you are not performing. And if you're not, you're fine. In the meantime, we were still getting his incredible presence in the locker room, teaching these young kids, just bringing all the positive things that a Joey Votto in your clubhouse does. And if he's not hitting, then he's not hitting, and the decision is easy. But I don't know. I'm just nervous. I will say, if they bring him back and they decide to also bring Nick freaking Martini back and hit him ahead of Joey 3 times a series, then I will be the first one. I'll buy him the airplane ticket to get out of here. They have mistreated the Joey Votto experience since almost day one. and I don't want it to end on a sour note. All right, moving on, Joe. What's your next quote?
This is from Wes Mantooth, played by Vince Vaughn. Um, after I think it was Brick made an absolute nonsensical line and walked away. Even the guy who can't think says something,
Even the guy who
which
can't think says something.
which
Well,
is perfect because the question is, will Phil Castellini insert his foot in his mouth again because he's the guy that can't think and he still says something.
oh
Again, I
man.
hadn't watched this movie in years. I watched it today, and as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh my god, he's talking about Phil Castellini. So
I yeah. What if you had to say yes or no? Is Phil Castellini going to get up in front of a group of passionate Reds fans and put his foot squarely in his mouth? Is that going to happen again? Surely not, right?
it will, because Bob is past the point of being competent enough to stand in front of any group and talk. And the only other guy there is Phil. Nick obviously isn't good at talking, so they're not going to put him out to try to sell that 75% of teams are out of the race by opening day. So Phil's a charming character and loves to tell the most ardent Reds uh, fans in all of Reds fandom that he's going to put together an absolutely nonsensical, factually incorrect PowerPoint presentation. Act like that, or tell them that he just learned that Rosie from Rosie Reds was an acronym, and then tell them that the Reds are out of
Oh,
contention.
what a moron.
That's the thing that more than anything else, him having the balls to go out there and say, I just learned that Rosie was an acronym for the Rosie Reds. I'm like, even
Say
if you
that.
just learn that, you don't
Yeah,
say that.
say it before you go on to your assistant. Don't say
Yeah,
it to the people. All
right.
right. Well, I'm going to vote no, but I am afraid that the answer is yes. He
Yeah,
is going to say
he will.
something stupid. My next one is from Ed Harkin, head of the newsroom. He says, I'm sorry, Veronica. We've had this discussion before. I'm not going to let you be the anchor. Veronica is a woman, and she wanted to be the first woman anchor of a news show. These are different times. And Ed wouldn't let her. Ed wouldn't let her be the leader. And that makes me wonder about the Reds leader, Jonathan India. Lost in all the talk about whether there's a spot on this roster for Joey Votto. Is there a spot for Jonathan India? I mean, MLB trade rumors had him at just under $4 million expected in arbitration. Is this guy guaranteed a starting spot? And where? They have better options defensively at second base. He doesn't hit enough to be a DH because that same better defensive player is also better offensively. Much like Veronica Corningstone, at least early in the film, it just doesn't seem like there's really any room for Jonathan India to be an anchor for this team. Any Jonathan India thoughts?
Anchor is a pretty good word to use when you're thinking about his defensive ability. Um,
Oh.
all due respect, he's a pretty likable guy.
Yeah, that's a very good. That's a very good point.
Yeah, he's
Let it be known. Love Jonathan India.
yeah, he seems to be well liked behind the scenes by the players. But if I were starting, like, if I were in control, if I were player personnel, I'd be looking to move him. He has value. He's a decent. Let's be honest. He's probably a league average hitter. He's been in the league for 3 years, and he's been pretty much right at 100 OPS each of the seasons. So, and he's a bad, second baseman. Would the Reds tell him to go grab an outfielder's glove and work and try to work in the corner out, try to work in left field or right field? He's got base running ability, but they have a much better second baseman in Matt McLean or Spencer Steer, who's just as poorly rated defensively, but can also play third base, first base, left field, right field, and is a superior hitter.
And also
Um,
played several of those positions for the first time last year. I'll
yeah.
give Spencer Steer a break.
Oh, he gets. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about Spencer Steer. I mean, he was. I think it's pretty clear he was the MVP for the entire season.
Yeah.
From game 1 to game 162. But I don't. He will probably be back, but I don't see a good fit for him. If it is, they're going to be playing him over somebody who is a superior player.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. I love Jonathan India. If he can sort of regain that Rookie of the Year form, then there's a place for that guy in any lineup in Major League Baseball. But we haven't seen it since then. I'm not completely convinced he can't do it again, but we have to see it because there's a lot of young talent nipping on his heels. And if we want them to go get somebody, he could be a piece that could be packaged. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. What's your next one?
All right, this was from Frank Vitcher. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but Luke Wilson's character. It's when when he gets his arm cut off in the big old news media fight, which is the greatest, might be one of the greatest scenes in all of cinema. I mean, it's right up there with some of the best scenes in Godfather Part 2. Seeing 5 news teams in an absolute life or death battle is fantastic. But when he gets his arm chopped off, I did not see that coming. And for me, are there any out of nowhere deals? Absolutely, just all of a sudden, just look on Twitter, X, whatever the hell, and you see, holy crap, the Reds traded for Mike Trout, or whatever, or wow, the Reds shelled out
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, Reds shelled out $55 million over 10 years for Shohei. So
this is one of those why I get fired up for the winter meetings, because those things can happen anytime. Yeah. Recently, it's been the opposite. It's been like the Reds traded away these dudes, and revisionist history is fine. We felt strongly about that. Some of the moves were good. Some of them I still have questions with, but that is why I hated those comments Nick Krall made today. Like the optimism and enthusiasm, the expectation that something like this could potentially happen has been dampened a little bit. And what's more exciting in sports than when your team makes a crazy, crazy trade? I'm a Phoenix Suns fan in basketball, and we traded for Kevin Durant last year, and I lost my mind. It could set the franchise back 10 years with all the first round picks they gave up. Yeah. But I didn't care. It's worth it. It's a team that's never won a championship that now has a chance. Will the Reds do something that gives them a chance? We know that they are not going to blow up their farm system for a player, because I think that Nick Krall just values job security. But will they do something that surprises us and gets them closer to the goal? I don't know. That's a good one. All right, my next one is from Brian Fantana. Brian Fantana is trying out a new cologne in this scene called Sex Panther. Word on the street that it smells like the diaper filled with Indian food. I said a turd covered in burnt hair, Bigfoot's private parts. Anyway, he says about Sex Panther and its ability to attract the ladies. They've done studies, 60% of the time it works every time. And for me, this goes to the strategy that the Reds keep seeming to want to employ. Are they going to pray for health, or are they going to go #get the pitching? In my mind, they 100% priority numero uno absolutely must go get some pitching. And they really need a front of the line starter. Just some quick numbers. Last year, Graham Ashcraft was the runaway leader in innings pitched with 145. He was on the IL twice. Brandon Williamson, just like everybody called going into 2023, second on the team in innings pitched. And we're not even 100% sure he's a major league caliber starter. I think he is, but we don't know that for sure. It would be impossible for me to be any higher on Hunter Green than I already am, but he missed a giant portion of last year and threw less innings than he did in his rookie campaign. Andrew Abbott's a stud, but we watched him get tired down the stretch. And Nick Lodolo, well, yeah. I'm glad he's supposed to be ready for spring training. The other dudes in the mix are all young and unproven. Joe, last year, MLB starters averaged 165 and a quarter innings pitched. The Reds didn't even come close to that. I told you they're number one at 145. So even if they're reasonably healthy, they need extra arms. They need somebody. People get hurt all the time. Graham Ashcraft, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo. They're going to be handling Lodolo with kid gloves anyway. So I don't know. If there's any expectation to make a deep postseason run, they have to go get one or preferably multiple arms. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have one pitcher that had threw enough innings to qualify for any of the major leagues, um, like ERA title or anything like
Yeah.
that. I mean, you've got to pitch 162 innings, one inning for each game played, and Reds didn't have one guy. I mean, Graham Ashcraft was 3 game, still had to throw 2, 3 more starts to reach that level. I mean, on the positive side, Ben Lively was outrighted to Louisville and he accepted his assignment, although he can still, at the end of the month, choose to become a minor league free agent. But there's hope he can still come back.
If we're hoping for Ben Lively to be an impactful player on this team, then we're screwed. I like Ben Lively. I want to go drink a beer and smoke a Marlboro Red with him. But he should be the 9th option on a good major league team.
I would be extremely happy if Brandon Williamson and Connor Phillips are headlining the Louisville Bats rotation. That means that the Reds have picked up 2 starters. Again, I think it would behoove them to pick up a 2 or 3, someone that's mid rotation above, and then someone who's a back end, 4 or 5.
Why not an ace? Why not go get an ace?
Right, but I'm thinking what's possible and what's logical.
Well,
The Reds,
we'll see.
it's not logical for the Reds to go out and get an ace.
We'll see.
It's
what
possible that they
happens
can
with
it's possible they can go bring back Sonny Gray or someone like that.
Yeah. They got to get somebody. That's it. And our bullpen overperformed this year, and they falter down the stretch. A strong starting rotation that goes deep into ball games improves the bullpen. It has trickle down effects. So please let them go and get the pitching. What you got next, Joe?
From our good friend Brick Tamlin, loud noises. Sorry, I had to say it loud. I should have prefaced everyone to turn their microphone down. This is about GABP. Will GABP get to see exciting, loud playoff baseball in 2024? That's the big question.
If they don't, it's hard to say if it's a disappointment. I will be disappointed. That's for sure. I will be less disappointed if they try and just don't than if they just sit back on their heels, get beat out by teams that did try. Cincinnati deserves it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, if they go into the season and they've made some acquisitions, like they've bolstered the pitching staff, they've added several relievers, they brought in better bench bats than, so you're not relying on Jason Vossler or Matt Reynolds coming up, and they miss out, guys get, key guys get hurt. Fine, like that's just crap that happens to, to major league teams, every year. Guys, just unfortunately, just crap happens, but you need to set yourself up because again, Cardinals are coming. Like Cardinals, I don't care where their farm system is rated. I don't care how old the players that they have on their roster are. They've got an eager and impatient, like an eager front office and an incredibly impatient farm system. Thumbs up. What is going on with that? I have no idea. Anyone who expects them to finish in last place again, I mean, you're an idiot.
For anyone that's just listening, a random thumbs up and thumbs down keeps popping up on Joe's screen, and we can't figure out what it's coming
Who
from.
is doing that?
I love it. I hope
I want the balloons to
roll. If you hear anything going on, some banging in the background of my mic, by the way, my cat is trying to bust through this door like he is at Minas Tirith. It is wild.
Mine is bouncing on a gate, staring at my Barry Larkin picture that I've got hanging up over on this side of me. So staring at me really weird now.
All right. Well, we've reached the get off the rails portion of the episode. So a couple more quick hits. Let's just go back and forth on some of these. I don't think we need to get too deep in all these. My next one is from Prime Fantana again. It says she was Brazilian or Chinese or something weird. I met her in the bathroom of a Kmart and we made out for hours. Then we parted ways, never to see each other again. That was what Brian's idea of love was. Something that I want to part ways and never see again is hopefully the end of the aging vets on 1-year deals that we can try to trade later on strategy. So if we never have to see that strategy deployed again, I'll be a happy man. All right,
You're
what you
gonna
got
miss
next?
Will Myers. Don't lie.
Hey, I thought Will Myers was going to be very good, and I was very wrong.
I guessed that he would lead the team in home runs. I hope like
Same.
that was on Late Night Reds, and like I want to go back and watch that episode, or I want us to revisit that. But then again, I really don't because I guarantee every single one of my predictions were just so far off
We
base.
do need to do that. We'll pick an off-season day to go back and look at all our predictions, and they were bad.
Really bad. And some of them like we were more pessimistic. I mean, they won more games than we expect them to win. Like all of us. So
They
hey,
won more games than
yay on them.
everyone expected them to win.
Exactly. Mine's from Ron Burgundy. We've been coming to the same party for 12 years now, and in no way is that depressing.
I disagree completely, by the way. It is super depressing.
By 12, we mean 33 and counting. Season since the Reds have won a world championship. Next year will be 34 years. Even if they win, that's a big gap between World Series victories. We need parades. Cincinnati's a fun town. Cincinnati's a great sports town, and it's so much better when we can have multiple beers and adult beverages cheering on a team fighting for a championship.
100%. Couldn't agree more. My next one is from Ron Burgundy. Also says, I don't normally do this, but I felt compelled to tell you something. You have an absolutely breathtaking hiney. I mean, that thing's good. That goes out to Spencer Steer. He of the dump truck home runs. My man is packing some heat back there. So kudos to you, Spencer Steer.
It was funny
Nope.
because there was he hit a walk-off home run. I can't remember what game it was. Maybe it was that against San Diego that he hit the walk-off home run? It was on Friday night because they had the City Connects. And they come off and like they rip his jersey off. And he's pretty like well put together guy.
Yeah.
And like the camera flashed to a bunch of girls in the stands and like their eyes were like, oh my God.
The women pet and the men regret.
Yeah, I mean he's a stocky, well, like muscular guy for someone who's short. I mean, so that being said, he does have really thin hair. I saw him. I've seen him in person, like at Reds Fest. But he's in his early 20s. Like I'm in my 40s. You're still in your 30s. But
I was in my 20s when it happened. I'm with you, Spencer Steer. At least you are a really good baseball player. Also, I got nothing.
Damn good baseball player.
All right, what you got next?
Doing changes from what I have on here in the notes, but same scene, same guy. This is another one from Brick Tamlin. There were horses and a man on fire, and I killed a guy with a trident.
That escalated quickly.
This is again Nick Krall talking to Reds fans. Did he kill us with his peeing on our parade before it even starts? Comments. I hope not. But
I hope not.
We'll see.
He did it today. I hope it's just a one day, and then we'll sleep it off and be back tomorrow. Yeah. My last one, Joe, is not even about the Reds. This is my wild card quote. It is from Champ Kind. He's the sports anchor, and he did not take kindly to Veronica trying to join the crew. And Champ says, it is anchor man, not anchor lady. And that is a scientific fact. And this is dedicated to the Miami Marlins. Joe, why might I dedicate such a quote to the Miami Marlins?
Because they had a very well put together team. They were in contention all year long, put together by the amazing Kim Ng as the general manager. And she left the team because they were trying to bring in people above her. Like instead of promote her, which they should have done, they were trying to bring in director, player, up, whatever, team president, something above her to give her someone else to talk to. And so she walked. So some team is going to get quite possibly one of the best baseball minds there is. She should have been. And if her name was John Ng instead of Kim, she would have had a job 15 years ago. She had been toiling away in the Dodgers front office.
When the news broke that Derek Jeter was walking away.
Yeah.
And that franchise was a dumpster fire. It looked like there was no hope, that they weren't going to try and they weren't going to contend at all for a long time. She gets hired, and within like 3 years, they're a playoff contender. And then they decide the best move, the smartest thing to do is take arguably the most valuable person in your front office and hire someone to be their boss. If you're already thriving in your job, excelling, why would you go kick that person in the shin? I don't get it. I don't expect that the Reds are progressive enough to go and try to snatch her up. I don't know that there's a role for her anyway with what happened with the recent promotions within the organization, but Somebody's going to, and they're going to get a heck of a baseball mind.
Yeah, I mean, she was again. She should have had a front office job or a general manager's job 20 years ago. Ended up having to go work for Major League Baseball. She was with the Dodgers. Dodgers do a great job of bringing in incredibly talented people. And then Marlins, I thought it was fantastic that they hired her. They had the balls to hire her as general manager because she's a brilliant baseball mind. And then they bring in someone who's, I guarantee, nowhere near as talented, nowhere near as educated, or has the baseball acuity above her. And
Yeah.
someone's going to gain a dynamite either president or general manager.
Yeah, it was tough. Bad luck for the Marlins. Best of luck to Kim because she's going to thrive elsewhere. Guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap that up. We just hit the hour mark, and somehow we keep going longer and longer, even though it's the off season. Joe, what else do you have going on here at the Riverfront?
You didn't want my final quote? Maybe that didn't fit too well.
Listen, Chad gives us the keys for one day. We gotta.
That's something I would use on my show. You make sure you guys join us on the Bengals Show. This week is a bye week, so I don't have a live post game wrap up. But Greg and I will be back on Wednesday with our regularly scheduled show. Obviously, every Sunday night at 9:00, you need to watch our good friends and hopefully yours, Tim Daniel and Ben Brown on Late Night Reds. Hopefully,
they're way more likable than we are, so don't worry.
They're a lot more optimistic and upbeat than I am, so they've got that going for them. Riverfront U is up and running with Ryan and Tim again talking QC and
yeah, man. We had Ryan Roberts was over at Big 12 Basketball Media Day.
Knocked it out of the
bringing
park, man.
All the news, man. It was so cool to see. He's a legend. Could not be more pumped about what those guys are doing over there at Riverfront U. So all your Northern Kentucky, University of Cincinnati, and Xavier University sports material. We have the website, riverfrontcincy.com, where they're bringing you updates on every game. And then just check out Twitter, check out the podcast, Riverfront U, coming out 3 times a week. And they even have an NBA show on Fridays.
I was going to say tomorrow's NBA Friday.
Yeah, just to, because Tim has an addiction and we have to keep him alive.
It's either that or heroin, and this is a little safer. It might be more expensive, but it's a little safer.
All this was a super long-winded way to say that we're trying to do as much as we can over here. We're having a good time with it. We want to keep bringing you all as much content as possible. And if there is something that you want to see that you'd be interested in, then shoot me an email. It's ncdotson@gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitter at ncdotson32. Joe is at the Bengals Show. And yeah, give us a holler. We're happy to chat it up, and we're always open to ideas. So, Joe, any parting words of wisdom for the crowd?
Not so much parting words of wisdom, so much as who do you think is going to make it to the World Series? We've got both. I mean, there's a 2 games. The Phillies have a 2-1 advantage. Diamondbacks just won tonight. Rangers have 2-1 over the Astros. That game is just starting or about to start. So by the that'll game 4 will be in the books by the time this hits everyone's feed. So you guys will know. But who do you got making it?
I think I got to go Phillies Rangers right now. Teams with the 2-1 lead. I love the bats. I think that the Astros probably have a pitching advantage for the rest of that series, so they could climb back in easily. I just don't like rooting for the Astros. Dusty got his, so I'm good. And as much as this Diamondbacks team is fun, the offensive matchup between the Rangers and Phillies would be something to see.
See, the problem is, the Astros are kind of are still unlikable because of the whole sign stealing, trash can thing. But the Rangers had Creed in-house yesterday.
Just sleeping on Creed, man. Creed had a time and a place, my friend.
No, I was all in. When I was in high school, they came out, I think my senior year in high school, and I was all in. Like, that first album was a banger, and then the second album was still good. Even the third album had a decent song here or there, but the more you hear about what kind of an egomaniacal turd with a messianic complex Scott Stapp was, like, these guys are kind of a joke. So, although Mark Tremonti, the guitarist, he is a fantastic, awesome guitarist, also with Alter Bridge. So we'll get that. So, anyway,
Show up for the Red Steaks. Stick around for the Creed deep cuts.
That being said, I think the Astros are going to. I just think they're the better team. It was a struggle. I mean, all three teams, them, the Mariners, and the Rangers, were absolutely battled, till the absolute very end. But I think the Astros are just a better team, and I think they're going to come back. I think they're going to win tonight, and it'll be the Astros and the Phillies, and that'll be an entertaining series.
You might be right. I just hope not. So thank you to everyone for listening and supporting the Riverfront. Tell your friends, tell your mom to tell her friends, and then those friends to tell their other friends. Because everybody's got different group chats. We all know it. And if you don't know it, that means that group chat is talking about you. Please remember to subscribe to the show either on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. You can find us everywhere, even places I've never heard of. And once again, huge shouts to our supporters at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. Show would not be possible without you all. And we'd love for you to join in on the hijinks. Just go on to Riverfront Cincy, patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy, or click the link in the show notes. So, shout out to Adam Dunn. Shouts to the legend Lisa Alberto and Wayne Kranchicki and Eli Cash. For Joe Farfsing and Pete Harnish, this is Nate Dawson saying, you stay classy, San Diego.